Hello, this is me on the workday. Corey here. This is me peeking over my computer to talk to you about an ask for $100 million to build the next retail store that would sell obituaries and biographies and movie making for businesses that are not entertainment based. Not everybody is prepared on the storytelling, and the media literacy just isn't there. So here's where I want to fix some things. So here are my goals, and bear in mind, the $100 million, it's going to be more like 500, but we got to start somewhere. And I'm sick of asking for too little money and being snubbed by some of you guys. One more note before I get going into my spiel here. If you're into project support, crowdfunding support, would you please leave me alone? Beyond that, I'm here to talk to the central principal people who are often lawyers or hedge fund advisors whose job it is to find new opportunities for their clients. Here we go. First, a little bit about me. I graduated from UNLV's Lee College of Business in 2019. It is a master's degree in business management, entrepreneurial design. And that was after I spent 18 years finishing a bachelor's degree. I graduated from Arizona State in 2011, and I hold 3 master's degrees. One's in film editing, and I have a teaching license anchored to that one, which makes me a legal expert in terms of media, in terms of editing, in terms of motion picture. I can go into any classroom anywhere and be a legal presence there. I have licenses in that. I also teach adult education. The second one, obviously, I just mentioned was business, and the third one was psychology, substance abuse recovery from Arizona State. Now, the interesting thing apart about substance abuse recovery, the psychology program, is I didn't get in there to learn about drugs. I went in to learn about how the brain is affected by the fluids bouncing around inside the brain, reacting to human choices, free will. Why do I want salt? Why do I want sugar? Why do I want an action movie? Why do I want a comedy? Why do I want to love? Why do I want to hate? All of these things are executed in the brain, obviously tied to our hearts, our souls. I believe we are 3-part beings. For those of you wondering if I'm all science and no metaphysical, born again believer in Jesus Christ at age 26. I'm currently age 51. I grew up Catholic and turned Protestant after I had some heartbreaking experiences in the movie industry. Now, let's talk about that briefly. When I was in my early 20s, I wrote some screenplays that later got borrowed, if not used, by some very famous people. And I've been in a bunch of movies thereafter, courtesy as being a background extra in LA. I lived there for 7 years, got married, and had kids, and she didn't want to be married to the President of the United States. So the marriage ended. Not so fun, but I have 3 wonderful, beautiful kids in college. And I'm a proud teacher of 11 years in the classroom. Among my credits, I've had a lot of people read my screenplays, including the team you would know as Will Smith. His partner is James Lasseter, executive producer of Cobra Kai. They last read my screenplay about Frederick Douglass called Remedial English. That didn't get made, and it led to me running for state assembly in Colorado in 2022. I made the ballot. I technically got more votes than the other team, but because of the way the scores are rendered here, I didn't get into the seat. Now, later in 2024, I ran for U.S. Congress in CD5 behind Jeff Crank. I like Jeff, good guy. We got a strong teammate in that seat. I still consider myself a bench player, like the quarterback holding the clipboard for the United States Congress, as I look into 2026, where I'm doing an exploratory run in my home state of Arizona. I'm currently talking to you from where I live in Denver, Colorado. I'm going to go check out what's going on in Tucson for a little while in the latter part of 2025. We'll come back to that another time. In the meantime, I'm here to build an empire known as Hearthstone. Hearthstone is our parent, currently a nonprofit, and it is a 527 registered as a paid solicitor for fundraising in Colorado when it comes to politics. I hate the word politics. I was raised to believe that certain sex offenders outranked us on the social scale, and that's just the way it was. I was repulsed by the idea of, hey, Corey, did somebody tell you how to gift for politics? I thought I was just trying to be polite enough to explain my ideas, and if that's policy, well, maybe I have a gift for it. All right. These glasses come from 35 years of writing, including screenplays. One I wrote for a guy named Wayman Tisdale. Guess who ended up reading it? But Denzel Washington, because it took an odd hop into the hands of Spike Lee, who borrowed from many people to make He Got Game. Turns out he stole from a lot of people over the course of his life, and I just didn't understand the way the WGA rules are in order to get credit or payment, and I sat there in 1998 and threw up in the theaters when I watched my movie unfold on the screen. Now, I worked with some very dark, shady figures who continued to try to do business in the state of Arizona. One was blacklisted. I won't get into his name. He was the cinematographer. No one will hire him because he said some very disgusting things about Mr. Spielberg. Mr. Spielberg, you know him as Steven Spielberg, and Mr. Lucas trained those who trained me. When I was in film school, I was trained by those who worked on the very movies that I enjoyed. When I got to UNLV, I was stunned to learn that one of the professors on faculty, who has since died, was Clarence Gilliard, who was one of the cast members, played the computer guy from Die Hard. It was a movie that made me want to be a director. Now, I have since learned there is more of an audience for movies that are about individual biographies. When I was doing the biography series for the Arizona Wildcats, I currently hold the rights to the Lute Olson's 1997 national title story. Coach Olson gave me his last 6 months of what I'll call cohesiveness in his own mind to help contribute to that biography, in which I told the story about my dad and Coach Olson. Now, I got into biographies to the tune of 4 of them. They almost bankrupted me, but here I am, many years on the recovery cycle of what I'll call learning curve, with 7 college degrees total. And one thing I got from the counseling of all that was boundaries, which I didn't know how to set or enforce when I was younger, or I never would have been in business with those people way back in Phoenix, Arizona in the mid-1990s in the first place. Yes, Wayman Tisdale's role was later played by Ray Allen in He Got Game. That was my screenplay. You won't find my name anywhere near it, but it was mine. Now, years later, we handed the same team that was going to do it another screenplay, and they went, hey, I've recognized your writing. I've seen you before. I handed remedial English to them. Now, I have learned the hard way that unless you are doing an advertising function for some other purpose, you're going to lose money with the movie. I don't care what movie you're making, you're going to lose it. It turns out I was right at that conclusion when I pitched one of my professors on an idea about media literacy among both kids and adults. And he happened to be the theater dean at UNLV at the time. And this is a guy who worked for Tim Burton in casting for 10 years and was on the team that helped get Schindler's List from Martin Scorsese's camp over to Mr. Spielberg's. When I shared that with him, he said, you know what? One of the producers of Schindler's List explained to Mr. Spielberg how to take his desire to prove his theory about televised witnesses being more high impact than just a written witness. Yes, I was a war crime survivor. People don't pay attention to that. Whereas when you're standing in front of them and say, this person destroyed my life, it's a whole lot more dramatic, which is exactly why Schindler's List was made, to promote the existence of the Shoah Foundation, of which I'm a giver. Now, again, Mr. Spielberg and Mr. Lucas trained those who trained me. Let's come back to that. The Lord called me into policy. So what I do right now is civil initiatives. I teach kids how to vote. And in Colorado, among other states, I believe there's 7 states and growing that do this. 16-year-olds can now vote at midterms. Okay? So if you're 18 years old at the presidential election, back it up a step. You're allowed to vote at midterms. That's huge. That means the largest voting base in American history can now vote. So when we're online arguing with other adults, well, you're a big jerk for not agreeing with me. I'm super me. I'm always right. And I know Jesus, by the way, and you're a jerk. Stop being a bad witness, schmuck. You're not winning over anybody's support, and you're certainly not unleashing the blessing of anything from heaven when you do that. He's very protective about his name. Now, I got to take my own advice here. Guilty as charged. I've said some things to people that have gotten me into quarrel with them. So let's talk about the positives. With my $100 million, here's what I want to do. I want to build a retail store chain that sells obituaries, like you used to go in and be able to place an ad for a yard sale or sell your car or whatever. You used to be able to go into newspaper shops and they would have a clerk, can I help you place an ad? And for, 89 cents, you could tell the whole world desperately seeking Susan, okay? The one thing I gathered from interviewing all the teammates of their championship teams was every single player, and there was 25 guys on each squad, up to 50 on each team, every single year, different players, and every single one of them had their own story. You only need one of them to do an entire movie. What I want to do is create jobs making non-entertainment motion picture. Next, we have storyteller publishing. We do wills and biographies. I came up with a way to pay the writing team using the insurance industry. Some people say, oh, insurance is all a scam. No, insurance isn't a scam. Insurance is a process in which we use what's left of your lifetime as collateral for whatever you don't have the cash up front to pay for. When someone dies, there's death insurance. And one of the things I want to plug in there is a business plan. I'll tell any interested parties who want to reach out to me. Every time I put a business plan out, it gets stolen by somebody. So I'm not going to put my full plan out to you. But I have one. And if you want to know if I can write a business plan, see the shirt. Biographies, I love tuning in to Based on a True Story. And the only way you get based on a true story is if you have the rights to the biography. So I do these things in order to create jobs and teach kids how to vote. Let's talk about CI clubs for just a moment. CIclubs.org is our way of reaching out to both the kids who are eligible to vote now because they are entering into that wonderful world of teenageism known as 16 and up, and their teachers who desperately want to cover this material with them in the classroom, but the school says no. You can't teach actual civics and parliamentary procedure here because we want you to teach them how to go to school a boy and come home a girl, which President Trump is tackling, but his administration is not going to do it all. Folks, I don't care how many people are in power, adults in power when it comes to our democracy, there is not enough lifetime for us to handle all the problems that are sitting in front of us. And I love President Trump, voted for him 4 times, 2 in the presidential, 2 in the primary. There's 2 fingers, 2 in the primary level. But even he isn't going to have enough time to cover it all, which means you got me as your 48th president. And I know people who don't like me very much are going, oh! Get used to the smile. You think I look good on Rushmore or my own money like Kennedy did? Now, above and beyond all the movies I may ever see get to the screen during my lifetime, adults don't have enough time to solve everything. So we have to turn to an audience of students eager to participate in their own pursuit of happiness, the kids. And you've been completely ignoring them, whether you want to admit it or not. I tell that to my Republican teammates all the time. I'm sick of arguing with old people about dead people. We know the independent vote hides all the dead Democrats. We know it. But we need to focus on the living, focus on those who are going to rise up and be the next voice of freedom and the next voice of truth. And those are the kids. CI Clubs harnesses all the teachers to meet and plan to teach civics in the classroom, whether as a club or if they get a principal who allows them to, in the classroom itself. I understand there are people who love Barack Obama a lot and Joe Biden and all those other people and Hillary Clinton, and they all believe that, well, they believe what they believe. Republicanism is as follows. Everybody's welcome, but Republicanism is as follows. Let the free market take its course, let bad ideas fail, and let good ideas be born again. I want to tell those stories about not just the famous, but the non-famous. So if you're interested in listening to me about Hearthstone Entertainment Agency, I want to do registered agency for businesses and help them pursue tax incentives for motion picture for the purpose of building biographies. There's 3 rules when it comes to presentation. I give you this for free. This is what I share with my students when I'm in the classroom environment. 3 rules. 1, don't tell the audience how to feel. 2, never be boring. You don't have to be funny, but don't be boring. And 3, always leave the stage warmer than you found it. So with that having been said, I'm looking for first dollar in for $100 million to fund Hearthstone Entertainment Agency. We're providing registered agency, mail services to the homeless. Big government contract I want to secure. We need to buy our own building to do it. And we want to own the building in order to have that government contract. It's a huge government contract to offer the homeless mail, but once you have it, it pays your overhead for everything else. It's going to take us at least the time it took to develop Pixar, which was 10 years. That was 10 years of Steve Jobs writing George Lucas a blank check. And then the result was not just Buzz and Woody, but the iPad. My youngest daughter, who's now started college, she learned how to read by herself. Granted, 2 parents as teachers and great education system. She learned how to read on her own using an iPad. I also credit Ron Howard and Brian Grazer for revamping pbskids.org because that website was fantastic. In the meantime, those are the things I want to do. You can look up the books I've written on Amazon. You can check out my other accomplishments and various web searches. I invite you to do so. If you're interested in selling these support services, please, I'm not going to give you the middle finger, but just know that I'm thinking it. I love you guys. Feel free to reach out to me if you're interested in talking more. And at this time, that is all I have to say. You've heard my numbers. What you do is up to you. Thank you. I'm going to go back to work.